Welcome to the NNBN podcast, talking with businesses, charities and organisations across Northamptonshire.
Sponsored by Poppy Design Studio. Find us at poppydesignstudio.com.
So a couple of weeks ago at the Your Business exhibition at Sywell Aerodrome, the SME Business Survey results were announced by a couple of members of the local business community. And I'm joined today by Greg Guilford, who's the CEO of HR Solutions, who's come to talk to us all about the report. So Greg, welcome.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks for having me.
No problem at all. Firstly, what a great exhibition. Yeah, great to have people come together and engage across Northamptonshire and the wider area. So good to see the survey results being announced as well. So before we sort of go on to the survey, though, do you want to talk a little bit about who are HR Solutions and what you do within the business?
Yeah, so I'm the CEO of HR Solutions. We're a HR consultancy based in Kettering. Pretty much our core activity is supporting SME businesses across the county, typically where they don't have a HR person in the team or just need to lean on some expertise for trickier situations, but also in recruitment or payroll services as well. We've been going for 21 years, so we kind of understand the challenges that SMEs have, because we've been supporting them through those for the last 20 odd years. But our SME survey that we've been doing for 4 years, some more data across SMEs that are not just our clients, but from the whole SME business community, just really for us to then look at what the challenges are over the coming years and really, whether they're a client or not, give them some signposts that they can take on board and hopefully weather the storms that come or rise to challenges that are presented in front of them. And the survey isn't just about HR. There is obviously a thread in that because of the nature of what we do, but we talk about finance, we talk about business development, we talk about all the other challenges around that. So the survey's been running for some time. So at the heart of it, there would have been COVID and the pandemic and everything that went with that, that we talked about, which, had some elements of HR, but broadly it was about businesses trying to survive and weather the storm. What we then tend to do is pull those out into webinars as well. So the survey is pretty much the first step in that process, where we've given some recommendations, and we'll be running some more detailed webinars with our partners on finance and marketing. We just haven't got those set up yet, but once we do, we'll announce that and hope to see you and everyone else there.
Yeah, fantastic. And you mentioned the survey's been going 4 years. Obviously, you kicked it off when the pandemic was literally just kicking off, I suppose, when all the lockdown measures were coming in. And was that really to sort of gauge how things were going to go throughout COVID? And obviously, it's grown into what it is today.
I think we started it just before COVID, actually. So when we first run the survey, I think we did it in the November, and then the COVID happened in the March. So the first one, it wasn't in, because it just shows no one could predict it, right? But yeah, the second and third one, definitely COVID and the pandemic was a key part of those challenges, and probably a little bit now, because all the kind of bounce back loans and CBILS loans that people have are really kind of starting to impact on people's ability to recover, because obviously they've got to pay them back. Obviously there is additional options of loans out there, but if people didn't use that money to kind of grow and they just used it to survive, then it's just additional cost to the business that they've got to try and pay now. So the themes still come through, but now they're talking about recessions and cost of living crisis. So the survey has lots of positives in it, but there is still some undercurrent now around people needing to manage costs in order to kind of grow.
Yeah, and on the back of the recession announcement a couple of weeks ago, well, actually last week, wasn't it? It was a case of, it's obviously this data is going to give us a picture of what it looks like. But with this being an annual survey, I suppose you're not going to really see the impact of what the recession may be causing until this time next year when the next survey comes out. You're not going to do another one sort of 6 months' time or anything, are you?
That's not our plan, no. We tend to just do them annually. A lot of work goes into it, but I think it just helps us keep that that theme going. I think the first one we did, we kind of didn't really know where it was going to go, and I think we've just evolved those questions really to try and anticipate what might happen in the coming years, and it's not just about asking for feedback; it's asking for their insight as well. So, what do they think is going to happen over the next year? And we don't have a crystal ball, and nor do they. But at least we kind of understand what everyone is thinking, and if we're all thinking the same thing, then broadly it's likely to happen, right? So, and we can put those kind of recommendations in place to help overcome that. So I think some of it's 52% think that a recession and cost of living is going to be their major challenge in 2024. That might be some people expecting a recession, but they're not expecting it to actually impact them because they're kind of maybe a bit more robust and a bit more mature in their organization. But some of the kind of new startup businesses probably haven't had that time to build up the cash reserves that they might need to weather some of that activity. So it's really interesting to kind of see the different themes that come through. And some people will see it as a challenge, and some people see it as an opportunity. So
absolutely, and I'm glad you mentioned opportunity during recession, because a lot of people cut back on their marketing during recessions as an expense, but at the end of the day, it's a day you should up it, if anything. And it's interesting because I've got the report in front of me, and I actually opened it up onto that page around the 52% of SMEs identified recession cost of living as their biggest challenge for 2024. And there's some great recommendations that you've put forward to sort of counteracting the challenges. So you've got adaptive budgeting, outsourcing operations, financial support and partnerships, employee skill development, and employee retention and development. Were these sort of the answers and sort of the responses you were getting from local businesses?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm sure you appreciate with any survey, there'll be some people that just answer the questions as they are and don't provide additional commentary, but then there are some that do. So not everybody kind of added that commentary, but there was a lot of themes that came through in terms of how people felt that they were going to tackle the sort of recession that may or may not come. But then we kind of leaned on our experience as well in terms of working with SMEs, in terms of how we've done it, as well as talk to some other partners when we're writing the report in terms of key themes that they would recommend. We've been doing it a long time. We're an SME ourselves, and we've kind of been in the same shoes as the readers, basically. And these are the things we've done in the past, as well as our clients.
Yeah, and the financial challenges, you mentioned about the bounce back loans, you're quite right. I mean, businesses are still paying them back. Now we've got the R word being thrown around, and challenges that's going to bring as well. But talking about some of the financial challenges, I mean, the report's identifying 56% of SMEs identified managing and controlling costs as their biggest financial challenge. That's quite a worry, I think, actually. If you look at it, over half of the businesses that came back to you are saying that, because surely cost is something that people can control to a certain level.
Yeah, I think it's a real mixed audience in terms of who completed the surveys, but particularly those who are importing are still seeing the impacts of Brexit and the cost of goods that are coming in. Those respondents who have a lot of employees, so professional services, the biggest cost to them is their people. Well, cost of living crisis has resulted in people offering inflation beating pay rises, which whilst a great thing to do, may not be sustainable if you're not increasing those costs to your clients. So that's kind of, I think, where some of these costs are coming from. So yes, you might be able to understand them, but if you need 10 people to do something, you need 10 people to do something. So you need to factor in how you're going to deliver that and what you pay those people. And I think that's some of the biggest challenges. I guess as SMEs, you don't always want to just keep increasing your prices to I guess survive, because you want to. I think the SME community is more supportive of each other. Like, they're in the same boat. If we put our prices up, you put your prices up, and I think everyone is a bit more trying to help each other. But at the same time, there's only so much you can do in those scenarios, isn't there? So if the cost of paper going up, if the cost of energy keeps going up, at some point there is a gap that needs to be bridged. The themes that were coming through is, how do we do that without I guess, damaging the business, and that might be, not paying staff wages or not giving them pay rises, or passing on our costs to our clients. And that's, I think, the conundrum is yes, it makes sense. The cost went up by 10%, but our prices up by 10%. Well, you might lose 10% of your clients by doing that. So it's a fine balance, isn't it?
42% see bringing in new business as a challenge, emphasising the need for growth and market expansion. But these challenges mirror those of the 2023 survey. So, yeah, that's kind of run in line with the previous year, hasn't it?
Yeah. I think we have had a couple of challenging years, and some of that managing costs that you just talked about might be that you're not spending on marketing, as you mentioned, and if you're not spending on marketing, then you're unlikely to be out there winning new business. So I think some of those themes do follow through. I think what we're kind of saying in the survey really is, don't cut back on marketing, but make sure you understand why you're spending it and where you're spending it to make sure you're getting a return on investment. And I think sometimes as small business owners, we all react quickly sometimes without having a strategic plan. Let's spend $5,000 on this marketing campaign, but we haven't really mapped out what we want that campaign to do, or what makes, if you get one client and it's $5,000, is that a good campaign? Or if you get 50 grand from that one campaign, is that the success measure? And don't get me wrong, there'll be many SMEs out there who do all of those things, and I think there will be a small part of that community though that will spend $5,000 and not really know why they're spending $5,000. And what type of client they want, so that new business is, do you want one client who's going to give you $1,000 a year, or one client that's going to give you 10 grand a year? And if you want more of the 10 grand a year, you need a plan as to where they're hanging out. And talk about buyer personas. Well, are they at networking events? Are they working in shared office spaces? So you would target them differently rather than having one campaign to fit all. And I think that's some of the challenges that follow through, that some businesses don't really know how to do that.
We hear it as well all the time as well, and I think sometimes people do cut back because they don't necessarily measure that return on investment on their marketing and advertising. In a minute, we'll come on to people management because we're intrigued around that. But let's just talk through that marketing and advertising, because you partnered with Pulse Group Media and Cube to pull this information together and get the report out there and everything. And there was some interesting recommendations that came out on the marketing and advertising around sort of content planning. AI is obviously going to be quite a big part of the future, providing it's managed and it's going to give us the right results. Measure and evaluate marketing budgets and strategy before tactics. And it was interesting that 82% of SMEs scored their digital presence moderate or worse, which I was quite surprised at.
Well, I think that they're probably being honest with themselves that, there's some people out there who will just put as many LinkedIn posts out there as they can and not necessarily know why. And who are they trying to engage with? So I think that's kind of where the themes really came through was, yes, the Monday morning LinkedIn post might get you a view, but it might not get you a client. So it's more about what is the purpose of it, understanding what you want to do, but also make that engaging. So, is a word LinkedIn post going to attract more engagement than one with a video or image or whatever? So I think that's where people are being a bit honest with themselves in that, it was a bit naff, or I've found a GIF that I've just reposted rather than a kind of branded version of the GIF, that kind of stuff.
Now, you guys are specialists in HR, working with people and helping your clients to advise them around people management. 52% of SMEs are focusing on employee retention. Now, did that surprise you, that figure?
And I think because we've seen it over the last year ourselves, and working in our space, we kind of know that the recruitment market is tough. So the people are moving around a lot at the moment. So that is putting pressures on SMEs in terms of trying to backfill. So spending $5,000 trying to hire a new, I don't know, HR manager, you might have put a bet, spent £2,000 on an employee retention initiative that kept the HR manager instead. So I think it's a real challenge at the moment where there's a lot of opportunity out there in the market for the right people, and particularly last year. I think it's slowing down a bit this year. A lot of people were moving jobs because there was with the kind of inflation pay rises. If your organization wasn't doing it, there was a pay gap for the same role. So you can move to a new organization for broadly the same role and might get £5,000 more, £10,000 more. So there was a lot of people moving, but then that puts the challenge on the backfill. So that person who might have been on a £40,000 a year job, you didn't want to give them the £5,000 to keep them. They've gone for 50, but then you got to pay £5,000 to find their replacement, and broadly you probably end up having to pay a little bit more than you were before because the market's moved. And I think that's the key thing. And it's not only a money thing, it's a lot of time recruiting people. And I think in the current space, I think the energy is better spent on business development, growing your business, and making it secure. And I think that's really some of the themes that come through in the survey, is that retention is, you've got good people, let's keep them. It's not about just letting them go and backfilling. I think particularly in SMEs, and you see it in large organizations too, but a culture in an SME is much easier to foster than it is in a large organization. And I think building that culture will keep those people as much as giving them a bigger pay rise.
Yeah, it's kind of the training, reinventing the wheel sometimes with people as well, isn't it? Where you get someone new come in, they've got to do the inductions, they've got to go back round in circles rather than actually trying to focus on retention. And I was talking to a company last week, actually, and they were saying to me that they've got like a retention scheme in place, a bonus scheme to actually keep people to the business, which I thought was a great idea, to actually try and keep them retained rather than keep them going round on the recruitment merry-go-round, which is out there.
Lots of different strategies. A retention scheme. Sometimes it's a bonus that you only get if you're not on notice, and obviously it's linked to some kind of performance. But others might tie it in with continuous professional development. Tie them in with maybe training contracts. There's only so much pay rises you can give someone before actually they may be above the bands that you think they're worth. So I think businesses need to think about a better way to offer a complete package in terms of rems and bends, and what are you trying to do? What do you want to reward people for? So I would encourage people to think about just because you're in HR doesn't mean you couldn't have a bonus scheme linked to company performance, for example. But everyone might have a share of the same pot. It doesn't have to be reliant on just the salespeople, because there might be different schemes, but broadly everyone's there to make the company a great place to work and a great service or product to provide to a client.
This is something that HR Solutions can actually help advise clients on and potential clients on around these sort of schemes and things like that, and setting those up.
Yeah, so the way we would work is we kind of work with our clients on a strategic plan. So particularly when they're on a retainer with us, we work through understanding what their business challenges are and where they want to go, and we will bespoke those solutions for them. Don't get me wrong, not everyone wants to take their family business to be a multinational. Some people just want to provide a great place to work, right? So we will work with the client depending on whatever they want to do as their objectives, and suggest things for them to consider that would help them achieve those goals that they're aiming to achieve, basically. They don't know what they want, so we'll talk through, well, these are some initiatives that you might want to consider. If you've got a high employee turnover, then why? And is it something that's, if it's pay, that's largely an easier conversation to have as long as it's affordable. If it's culture, if it's other benefits, then we can talk through all of those with them. And sometimes it's just they want to have a bit more social.
Talking of questions as well, Greg, right at the back of the report, you've got 10 questions that SMEs should ask themselves in 2024. Now, these are based on the insights of the SME Business Survey that's been produced and fantastically pulled together as well. Do you want to talk through those sort of 10 questions that have been identified?
Yeah, so we've kind of worked through, obviously, throughout the different sections of the report, we've tried to create some recommendations that we think everyone should consider it, depending on the different challenges that they see themselves facing. But these questions are really sort of probing questions for them to maybe sit down, run through it, and jot them down. And so these questions are really to get people to think about, honestly, whether there is financial resilience in their business. Are they using technology efficiently? What do they want to do in terms of market expansion and growth? Are they compliant with legislation, whether that's HR, health and safety, even financial regulations? Are they kind of covered that off? Could they improve on their operational efficiency? One of the key things for this survey, and certainly the expo, was about cybersecurity and AI. Explore it, play with it. Are you aware of it? If not, spend some time on it. Look, understand it. It might not be right for your business, but it might save you 10% of your day, depending on what you're doing. And then, to strategic outsourcing, people just think about it. We're not saying everybody go do it, but if you haven't explored it, you don't know whether it's right or wrong for you. So just to sit down, think about, well, what can I do? Would I benefit from bringing in an expert to help me do this, even if it's for a short-term thing? So really just to try and get the SMEs to sort of use these questions, a bit of soul searching. If they're relevant for them, then great. If they took something from this report and only one thing, then I would take that as a win. If people take the report and take all the recommendations and ask all those questions, and their business grows tenfold, even better. But it was more about just trying to get SMEs to try and think about stuff, look at the future, and hopefully we'll see all the SMEs, particularly around Northamptonshire, thrive and grow.
Ultimately, that's what we all want, and I'm assuming there'll be a 2025 report for later on in the year, sort of for early part of next year. Well, that will come out.
Yeah, we typically launch it back end of October, throughout November. Use December to write the report, with a publish in January. That's kind of the pattern we've been following. I think it kind of works well. I think a lot of people do a bit of soul searching over the Christmas period normally anyway, and come out in the new year with a plan for the year. And that's kind of really why we try and time it around that, to kind of support with that business thinking going into the new calendar year.
Well, we'll happily share it when the information's out to help push that and try and get people to engage in the next year's report, like we did do with this one. So yeah, keep us up to date. We'll happily share that around our database and around the local community and across the social media to try and get those further insights and reports. Talking of the report, when can people actually get access to the results themselves if they wanted? Is it on your website at all? They can download it at all, or is it available as a hard copy?
We do have some hard copies, but it is available online as well. So if you sort of Googled HR Solutions SME Business Survey, that's probably the easiest way than just trying to type in the web address. And the keyword will take you to that page. If not, if you can't find it, it is on the HR Solutions website, which is www.hrsolutions-uk.com.
Brilliant. Well, Greg, thanks ever so much for joining us. It's great to be able to catch up and talk through the survey. And as I said, it was interesting results that have come out of it, and it'd be interesting to see what it looks like this time next year. But well done on putting it together, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no, it was great. And our reach was greatly improved with our partners from Cube and Pulse Group Media as well. So thank you to them as well.